Finally, we're back to 9 a.m. It feels so good to be back, like at this time and doing things. So, what's new today? What are we doing today? We're doing something totally different. Oh, you know what else I have to do? Change the title. Okay. So, the thing that we've been doing over the past 2 weeks, I think it's been 2 weeks, it's been quite a while. If I take a look here. Yeah, actually almost 3. It's almost been 3 weeks of this. Really? Almost been 3 weeks of these 2 projects. Well, we finished it last week, so I would say it was a 2-week long thing, where we finished these 10 projects, wrote them all out, finalized them, and they're ready to go, right? So those are done. I'm not going to be streaming those 10 projects anymore. They're done. They're ready to go. And then once we get into the actual editing of the project, I will show you guys what I'm doing with that. Now we're moving on to a new project. So let me kind of show you what that's going to be. You probably can't read this quite as well, but what it is we're going to be doing a soundtrack, an entire soundtrack. So basically, instead of just doing individual songs, it'll be one long soundtrack all devoted to one specific thing that I'm going to do. So what I've kind of decided is, for like a couple weeks to a month, we're going to work on 10 projects. Just new projects, things that I've never touched, which is like those 10 that we just did. Then after that, we're going to work on something very specific that's focused. It's going to take another month long, like this, where we either are going to do a soundtrack, or we're going to do kind of like our own composition that's multiple songs long, or our own individual soundtrack for something else. What we're doing though, is we're going to take the game Myst, and we're going to rewrite the music for it. So basically, we're going to come up with brand new music for the original Myst. Now, what does that entail? And how is this going to go? Well, this is going to be completely different, because this is going to be a lot of listening, and a lot of the stuff that I'm going to be writing down is going to just kind of be key things I notice throughout the soundtrack. Okay, it's not going to be a lot of writing, at least not to start. It's going to be more so. I'm sorry, it is so cool. It is, I think, 15 degrees out right now. That's why I'm extremely bundled up, and I just had to go move my car, and I had to go get coffee. So it is so cold, it's not even funny. So I'm assuming at some point we're going to use the piano here, but I don't know when that'll be, because we're going to spend a good portion of this stream listening and trying to figure things out. Now, Myst is a toughie, because Myst music isn't really your traditional kind of music. But that's good, because so far, that's what we've been writing, right? All the stuff we've been writing is very just cut and dry, A section, B section, and then maybe go back to the A section. A lot of repeats. It's not this music, if that makes sense. This music I would refer to as just straight up, hey, what's up, man? Thanks for stopping by. The music that we're going to be writing, I would just probably define as atmospheric music. Totally different, not something that anyone would really be used to. Good morning is right. It is 15 degrees. Sure is a good morning. So this is going to be a lot different, and something that I don't think I've ever written anything quite like this. So this is going to be something that's a challenge, I think, for all the people involved. But it's something we need to learn because the music in Myst is very, I guess I would say, different than most games were back in those days. And now, people use Myst as kind of a cornerstone game and to use their music in other, in other video games to be essentially their like ambient music, their atmospheric music, and it's used all over the place. Atmospheric music. Now, the other problem with this is I don't have that much available here, like to that much in terms of instruments and in terms of sound and all that stuff. It's going to have to be written before we can go into program and edit it and do things to it, which is fine. I think we'll still be able to do it and still be able to pull it off. If we're a week in and we're struggling, then maybe we'll have to pull the plug on this particular game and start with a new soundtrack, which is fine. So I was explaining that we're going to be we finished our 10 projects that I had rough drafted and then final drafted, and they're now done and ready to be either recorded or thrown into MIDI or edited. So we're now going to set those aside and we're going to focus on doing something completely different. So what we're doing is we'll write 10 projects and then we're going to focus on something specific, and then we're going to write another 10 projects, and then that's how the stream is going to go. So now that we're done with that, we're going to be focusing on rewriting the Myst soundtrack, the game Myst, their soundtrack. And the reason why I chose Myst is because the biggest reason is because I've never written music like this, and it needs to be, I have to learn how to do it, essentially. I've never done it before. I need to be able to write stuff like this because it's used often. It's used in horror games all the time, even nowadays puzzle games. And in fact, one of the Cyan Games' new games. What is that called? Oh man, I can't remember the name of it. Abduction. They have a new game called Abduction. They came out. That's the plan for now. And as I said, like if it's not working a weekend, because it is tough. It's going to be tough to do with just a piano. Then we'll switch to something. I have another idea of another thing I want to do. Well, it's going to be a lot of listening because we have to really solidify what exactly we have to get into the mindset of playing Myst. We have to understand that Myst, the original Myst, is not. How do I explain the original Myst? It's just not your typical game. It's really just a bunch of slides. So, understanding that it's not a 3D environment. I mean, they eventually remade it into like a 3D type thing, but it's not for now. So you have to get into that mindset of, oh, this is not a 3D environment. This is just these pictures that pop up. Actually, I'll show you with Myst spelled like that. That's Myst. It's a puzzle game. It came out in 1990. 1993? No, 1991. Yeah, Myst came out in 1991, I believe. Let me double check on that, actually. Oh no, 1993. Yeah, 1993, which was actually the year I was born. And what's interesting about it is it was the highest selling PC game, even more high selling than Doom, like once Doom came out, till The Sims. So Myst was the highest selling game until The Sims. like of all time, even over console games. I'm pretty sure it was definitely the highest selling PC game, which is just crazy because all it is like a bunch of slides. It's a puzzle game, but all it really is a bunch of slides. And yeah, it's a crazy game. It's hard, a very difficult one. Yeah, The Sims is great. Sims. I haven't played The Sims in a while, but The Sims is great. It's a difficult game. Um, we're gonna listen to some of the music, and we're gonna kind of try to get into the atmosphere. And then the other thing that we're gonna be doing is on here. We're not gonna be so much writing music to start. We're gonna be writing the things that we hear, that are patterns throughout the music, to base our music off of. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm going to write out, okay, how many songs are in the OST, the original soundtrack. We're going to write out each one. Well, not write out, but we're going to just label each one. And then we're going to rewrite them. Okay? That's at least what I want to get to. Because I think it's important to be able to rewrite this stuff. Now, I had said that if this isn't working, we're going to switch to something else. I do have another idea of rewriting the soundtrack for Diablo, the original Diablo. The reason I didn't choose that to start is because the original Diablo only has like 4 songs. But the reason I wanted to do it is, one, yeah, it only has 4 songs, but they're very important within the or within the game. And it's a dungeon crawler, which means that the song has to be catchy enough and loop. You know what I mean? Because Tristram's theme, for example, is just so catchy and so good, and you have to be able to beat out the Tristram theme, and that's so tough to do. If this works out and we do this, and then we go to 10 new projects, and then we come back to this, I will be doing the Diablo stuff at some point. But for now, we're gonna listen to some Myst music. It's gonna be a lot of listening today, just so that we can get into the mindset. So the first thing on the Myst soundtrack is the theme, the Myst theme. So let's listen to the Myst theme and see how different it is than the rest of the music. Okay, that's it. Yeah, the synth pads are so real in this type of music. So here's something I noticed right away. Synth timpani, which they use a lot in this music, a lot of synth timpani, and they use it as, they don't use it like you normally would. They use it as like fill, like almost like drum fills getting into the next part of the song. First of all, I can tell you right away, the main theme is, let's see, so it's in B minor. So the main theme is with this right? That's the main theme. Right. Right, the pizzicato part, that does come into play in all the other songs. I'm just bringing it up. I know the soundtrack decently well from what I remember as a kid and from replaying this as an adult, this game. There's a lot of parts where there's strings. Just kind of fill in there. But even something as simple as that Myst soundtrack, right, is just that, has... It doesn't sound completely... It's in time. There is a time signature to it, but it doesn't sound completely in time. It still sounds like it's just kind of being filled. It's just kind of this... Oh, turn the volume down. Dicks. And then added on top is all of a sudden... And then it stops, and then back to this. Right. So there's a lot of that. The pads, obviously, the synth pads are very, very important in this type of music. Which is interesting because it's not always. I think the big thing too with this music is that it's there's a lot of string instruments in this song. Oh, thanks. There's a lot of string instruments in this music, and just in general. Yeah, it's this is going to be a real challenge for anyone because it's not, the music isn't in time. It's all ambient music, and it's something that you, as a music writer and as a music composer, you have to learn how to write stuff like this. So that's another reason why I'm doing it. So let's talk about the theme more. What is important about it, right? It's in B minor. Okay, it's in a minor key. Now, that's not something that I would expect. That's not something that I don't think anyone would expect, right? Because the game is a puzzle game. And there's one of the biggest things that made Myst so popular is that it was one of those games that wouldn't just guide you around. You had to figure everything out. I remember, because I got so frustrated. Right? I got so frustrated as a kid playing this game. And actually, so, I'll give you a history on this game. When I was a little kid, when I was like 3, 1996 probably, I would watch my dad play this game. And he would play it, and he actually ended up playing all the Mysts, and I would watch him play. I watched him play every single one. And I always used to ask him questions and annoy him about it because I loved it so much. I thought it was so cool because it was my first like real look at 3D environments. Yeah, they were slides, but they were like painted. Basically, it was just kind of like painted drawings. If you ever look at Myst imagery, it's really cool. Because really all it is somebody just drew like 100, I think it's like 1,500 slides, probably more than that. But something like 1,500 slides or 2,000 slides, and just put them in the game, and that was it. That was the game. But they were 3D environments because they were, drawn out. And I thought it was so cool. And the imagery in the game is just awesome. But there's no backstory to the game, really. There's no dialogue at all, except for at the very, very end. There's nothing. The game gives you nothing. You have to figure everything out on your own. And I used to, after I watched my dad play through it, a couple of years later, I tried to do it, and I couldn't figure it out. And then as an adult, I tried playing through it, and I remembered everything. I remembered everything that my dad had done, and I was able to beat it, like, just off of memory. And then I was able to beat Riven, which is his sequel, off of memory as well. But the important thing to realize is, like, this game is difficult. You're going to be hearing this music a lot. This is not a game you just beat in an hour. This takes, like, a month. Like, in fact, I think the people who made it are two brothers, Rand and Robin Miller. And I think Robin Miller is the one who... One of them just wrote the music, and the other one... One of them wrote the music and drew the slides, and the other one did the programming. So I think Robin Miller is the one that did the actual music, if I remember correctly. I'd like to see that, because he's done a lot of like TED Talks and stuff, and he's done a lot of interviews talking about different music that's going on. Here's audio, the ambient and incidental sounds, blah blah blah. Let's talk about who wrote it. Yeah. 40 minutes of synthesized music that was used in the game, later published in the Myst soundtrack. That's it. Mixing and effects were done on EMU. They did everything on a synthesizer, and the soundtrack was recorded over the course of 2 weeks. In evenings, the evenings of those 2 weeks, and it was Robin Miller who did it, which I think is just crazy. Like, that is so cool that he did that, and in 2 weeks. So if he can do it in 2 weeks, we can do it in the same amount of time. Even though I don't have a synthesizer, we can still use an electric piano sound of some kind. But anyways, so that's the point we're at. I gotta refresh the stream real quick. So that's okay. So this is the mindset we have to be in, right? Is this game is not supposed to be upsetting or it's weird. Like I honestly would not have expected the like main theme of Myst to be that, not sad, but like it's different. I wouldn't have expected it. You know what I mean? Like it's just, you know what that is? That's a pretty common little theme that's used often in music. It's actually used in a song. There's a jazz song called "All the Things You Are," and that is the beginning theme. There's like an intro to the song, and that's the beginning intro. It's there it is. So we're gonna listen to it again. Keep thinking about it. Keep getting that mindset. So, in music, back in the day, back in the 1600s and 1500s, now even probably before all that, when someone wrote music, they would write, they'd write whatever music they wanted to write for vocalists, and then there was a specific vocalist who would sing one note, and it was very low, and basically that was to keep them from having any sort of like, keep them from having like no space, like nothing going on. So even if the singers were resting, there was still this note going on, and what that was called was a drone. And in this song, there's one of those, and it's just someone playing this, just holding it out over the course of while everything else is going on. So that's just being held, and then this is going on. The song is in time. Like the song is in time. It has some amount of rhythm to it, right? But that's kind of the important thing here. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna write down a few of these little points that we're making. So what I've kind of labeled this series of projects is just project series number 1, Myst Soundtrack, right? So what we're gonna write is. Let's not do it that way. Because this first page is probably not going to be used for actual music. It'll just be used for notes. So, number 1, Myst theme. So let's talk about the Myst theme. What did we hear in the Myst theme? Well, we heard a lot of synth pads. There is a synth timpani. Right? A lot of strings. Right? We're gonna write just drone, and what that means is that's that note. Jeez, just kind of being held over. We're in B minor, right? Really, there's only two themes. There's, and then there's, I don't think there's anything else. Let's do it one more time. I don't think there's anything else. No, there isn't. So you see how simple that is? That's not even, I mean, that is such a recognizable thing for people who played Myst back in the day or still play Myst or remember that game. And that game was very popular. And people recognize that because that was the main theme of the game. And all it is and it's so simple. So we're gonna write two themes, and I'll write them out. In fact, and that's really all they are. It's this do 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 do, and then just a bunch of fills with the synth timpani that's going on, right? Now they have this drone going on in the background, but that's it. So they use a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 notes in the entire song. Now, yeah, they're up and down the octave and stuff, but it's 6 notes. That's it. Not hard to make. This particular song, since it's the theme, is not really meant to have ambiance to it. It's supposed to be a short thing. It's supposed to give you... It's supposed to put you in the mindset to play this game. It's a little different. It's a little different than the rest of the music you're going to hear. Okay. 'Cause the rest of the music you're going to hear... Sorry. It's going to be a lot of atmospheric stuff. Sound effects. You hear a lot of sound effects. Things like that. This is like a legit song, at least for a little bit. It is. So, that's the first theme, right? It's in B minor. It's got a few instruments. It's got a synth pad. It's got a synth timpani. It's got some strings, right? Those are a few of the instruments. There's really only two themes that are important. There's a drone going on in the background that you can hear clearly, and it goes from F sharp to B, so it changes as the song moves on. There's a lot of fills. There's a lot of fills with the timpani, so we're gonna write that too. Fills with timpani, right? So you're gonna hear a lot of fills with the timpani. A lot of fills with the timpani, and different uses of strings, because there are strings that are legato, and then there are strings that are pizzicato, and so there are different uses. Now that we have kind of the facts, essentially, let's talk about how we feel with this kind of thing. Okay, what do you What do you feel when you hear this? Like, think of Myst, if you remember Myst. And what do you feel when you hear this song? So what are some of the let's talk a little more musically about this. What what about this song do you how do I explain this? So don't think of it like specifically. Just think of it as musically. What do you hear? What things do you hear that you like that sound good? You know, what kind of feeling does it give you? Okay, before, like as an example, those Pokemon songs I had written, one of them was a chip tune. What was that about? So that was perky. That was, I guess, high energy. You can say, easily looped type of song. And simplicity was important in that. And it was in a major key. It was a tutorial level song. And then the other one was an epic song. You can hear it being used in a band kind of thing, a fanfare type song. That's what I'm talking about. So what does this describe to you? So, I mean, the song itself gives me a feeling of uneasiness, because for a lot of people back in the day, in the 90s, they're not used to hearing that type of synth sound. So it's a little unusual for them. Definitely not used to it. What else? This is a different type of soundtrack, and the music that they're about to hear is a lot different. And this particular song is a lot different. You know, especially when you consider the other games that were out at the time, like King's Quest games and all that stuff, or even games on console. A lot of those games had, you know, pretty intense, and some of them were pretty complex, some of the music that they were using. And this is not. But it sounds that way, but it's not. The biggest thing I feel is uneasiness. Mostly because it's in a minor key. But you're unsure. Uneasiness, unsure of where you're at. I wouldn't say it's mysterious, I'd just say you're unsure. Which makes sense, because in the game, you feel that way for most of it, to tell you the truth, since there's not really a story. You get, like I said, there's very little dialogue in the actual game. You do get a little bit of a background as you, like kind of early on. But it's unclear. It's unclear. So, one of the things I'm going to write about this particular piece, about this first theme, is uneasiness. Unsure. I'm just going to write unsure what's next. Type of a feeling, right? And we're going to be doing this for each song, by the way. Okay, so that was the first one, and the first thing I wanted to put out was just technically what was going on. Well, we have these synth instruments, right? And then we have these two themes, the drone, whatever. And then how does it sound? How does it feel? And uneasiness, unsure, unclear. That's the main thing that I'm hearing with that type of song. Not because it does resolve, like the themes resolve themselves back to B minor, but the fact that it's in B minor in a game that isn't inherently sad, there's nothing really like depressing about it. You know what I mean? Is a little off. It's a little off. So I think we're gonna leave it at that. Okay. And we're gonna move on to the next song here. So the next song is Tree Gate. Now, some of these we might not be doing like redos of, just because if all it is just like noises. Well, what's the point in doing that? I mean, if you really needed that kind of thing, there's a lot of noises for a lot of different things that you can use. So let's listen to Tree. Let's just listen to it and see what it is. Okay. So what this is, let me give you a little background on the game that might help while I'm writing down what each of these songs are called. So in the game, if you don't know about it, or if you've never played Myst. Oh, one other thing that I want to start putting in the description of these things, or like in the title. Is I'm gonna start in the channel feed down at the bottom. I'm gonna be putting in the channel feed what we're working on this day today. Just so it doesn't just say writing music coming to the stream, you know what I mean? It actually will tell you what it'll actually tell you like what I'm writing, what I'm doing specifically today. And I think that makes sense, so that people don't walk in and like, what is this guy doing? Like, I don't understand. You know what I mean? You can imagine if someone walked in and I'm talking about drones and two themes and synth pads and synth timpanis. It makes no sense. Okay, so this song. Let me give you a little backstory on Myst. So Myst is a game where you're not any famous person. You're not a real like interesting protagonist. You're just labeled as the stranger. And what happens is you stumble upon a book, you open it up, and you're transported into a new world. That's all you know. You go through this weird starry expanse type thing, like you do in the beginning of the game, and you just go to a new world. And the new world is Myst. And all it is an island. And on the island there are, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4 what are called ages, which are other worlds, right? There ends up being a 5th, but we don't know about it just yet. There are 4, and the 4 are I don't know the specific names of them, but I'm gonna try to. Maybe they're in here. Doesn't look like it. That's kind of odd. I figured they. Oh no, here it is. Oh no, that was just one of them. That's weird. Huh. I figured that they'd have all of them in there. Like what they were all called. Let me see if I can find like what the ages are called, because this is important too, to just so that you understand like where we're getting this stuff from, right? Now, what is this? List of oh, here, yeah. Here's a wiki. Okay. How do you pronounce that? Selenitic? Okay, so one of them is Selenitic, which Selenitic is like one of the last ones you go to. Oh, this is actually really good that we're doing this. Just because... Oh, this is going to be really awesome. It's giving us descriptions of each of the ages, which is exactly something we need to get us into that mindset. Selenitic is one of the last ones you go to. It's one of the 4. A lot of people call it the rocket ship age because the way you get into it is by going into a rocket ship. Then there's stone ship, which stone ship is just a ship, literally. Some people call it the age of rocks. Some just call it the ship age because the way you get into it is through a ship. It's like a wrecked ship. Then there's the mechanical age. Everyone just calls it I think it had a name, but because so many people called it the mechanical age, they just were like, alright, we'll call it the mechanical age. So many people. So when you get into it is a giant gear. One of the first places. Most people go there first. That was the first place I went to. Whenever I always show this game to people too, by the way. Like I will always have people like, is anyone like that I meet that have never played this game but they like video games, I show them this game. I'm like, you should play this. This is intense. Or if I ever meet anyone smart, I'm literally just like, you should play this game. You'll like this game. First place they always go. First place I always see people go is the mechanical age. It's also one of the easier ones to get into. Is that one? And then Channelwood. And Channelwood, usually the second place people go. Or third. I think it was the third place I went to. The rocket ship age people go to last, typically. Or Selenitic. I don't even know what that is. And then... Let me just see something here. Oh, this is like... Okay. So... And then there are a couple of other ages. A couple. That we're not going to get into because I don't... Well, unfortunately, I have to warn you that there's going to be spoilers about the game since we're going to kind of be talking about it. So if you don't want to know about the spoilers, oops. But we kind of have to talk about it. But those are the 4 main ages for now. We're just going to talk about that. And then obviously Myst Island is the other one. Which Myst Island doesn't have a theme really. All it has is a lot of wind music and a lot of just birds. So let me explain to you where this song comes. Finally, we're going to talk about this. So this song is called Tree Gate. And what it is so when they made this game, one of the things that they did was you're on this island. It's almost like a hub world. And this is how you get to all the other islands. Or how you get to all the other ages, right? And what they did is once you finally solve the puzzle to unlock the book to go to that age, there was a little music as you were, heading towards the book. So, for example, this is the book before Channelwood, which was the... Channelwood is essentially... I'm actually going to kind of go over Channelwood, so let me kind of read you the description. So what it is, essentially, is trees that are... It's a huge ocean with just kind of trees sticking up, and the people that were native to Channelwood used to live in the treetops, and they were like monkey people, essentially. And so they had these like little tree houses, and that's where you went on. and then there was little paths on the bottom that would kind of basically acted as like waterways to get to the different, like to get to like elevators that would lead you up to where the treetops were. But the rest of the place is literally just an ocean. Okay. So once you solve the puzzle to unlock the book for Channelwood, as you're walking down there, this music starts playing when you see the book. Okay. This is also the only time that like music pops up, really, because like I said, the rest of it is kind of just ambient stuff. So I actually forgot about these. So they did it for all of the ages, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure if I remember correctly. But this one, oops, is the one for Channelwood. So we're going to listen to it one more time. And we're going to pick out the things that do the same thing as we did with the first song. Pick out the things that we notice. Okay. Very, very simple song. Not a lot going on there, right? But there doesn't need to be. Because most people won't listen to this song for very long. Like, the song is a minute long. Most people are not going to listen to it for more than 10 seconds. Because they immediately go down... what it is you go down this, like, tree thing. And then there's, like, just one room where you can only move, like, 2 places. Which is back into the tree thing or forward into the book. So they literally go down in this tree thing. They're going down underground. They walk out and the music starts playing, and they'll just click on the book, open it, and click on the thing, and they're gone. So you're only going to hear something like this for 10 seconds now. I know it's a minute long, but they will do that kind of thing. This is kind of the same syndrome, the Sonic Adventure thing syndrome with the fish song. They wrote like a minute and 31-second song just to reel in a fish that you might only hear that for 10 seconds, but you have to play it because it has to loop and it has to be able. So there's 3 instruments. There's piano strings doing, which actually it sounds almost exactly like it. It's super simple. It's an A major, which most of these are in major because you solved the puzzle. So they should be in major. So there's that. There's synth timpani again, because they love synth timpani in this. And the reason why it's synth is because you can hear the difference between like a regular timpani and like a synth timpani. It's a little more. It's very. How do I describe it? I don't know. I guess you can hear it better. Just I think it's the attack mostly. It's just as soon as you hear synth timpani, it just attacks very, very well. By the way, this hat is extremely itchy, so that's why I keep moving my head around, because this hat is so itchy. It's like wool, so it's but I have to wear it because my hair is a mess because I just woke up like at 8 something. Anyways, so there's that, and then along with that, there's also congos, just kind of randomly in the background going. Just like, what is the congo? What are the congos for? which I'll describe in a minute. I'm going to grab my drumsticks. Going to make things easier in general. But yeah, the congos are just kind of going. Not doing anything complicated. You know, stuff like that. Very easy. But there's nothing to it, really. You know what I mean? So what are they there for? Well, they're there for a couple reasons. One of the reasons is musically, and the other reason is for Myst purposes. The musical reason that they're there is to fill the space. Because if you had something like a drone going on in this song, for example, like if you had someone just going, it wouldn't sound as good. Like there's just not enough going on there, right? The melody is so basic that there's just not enough going on in the song. You need more. So what's going on is this rhythm. Whatever it is. I'm just kind of like giving you kind of an idea of what it sounds like, right? The Myst reason that it's there, I think, I don't know if this is entirely true, but the reason I think it's there in terms of Myst is based on the location that we're going. So we're going to Channelwood. Channelwood was home of these monkey people that lived in treetops. So the congos are supposed to represent those monkey people. Now the other thing that you have to realize is you have to understand the history of Channelwood to also kind of get it. Because the other thing that is important about Myst, and I think one of the coolest things about it, is on the actual island there's a library. And the whole point of Myst, this is the other thing, the plot of Myst, you later find out, is the guy who's been writing these books, his name is Atris, and he wrote this whole library of books, right, about going to these ages and discovering them and going on these adventures. And he has two sons named Cirrus and Achenar, or Achenar. I call him, it's kind of unclear what exactly, it's Achenar, Achenar, it's like Achenar, I think, Achenar. I call him Achenar. So what ends up happening is he's then trying to get his kids involved in this type of thing, right? Now, apparently that they came up with this whole backstory for all these people and the people who write these books and all this stuff, but that's not what we're talking. We're just talking about the original Myst. So it's the guy who writes these books that can travel to different ages, essentially. Okay, and he invites his kids, and he has a wife named Catherine who's also kind of involved in this particular. She's more involved later on in the other games, but she's involved a little bit in this one at least. And so he has these two sons, right? And he goes to Channelwood for example, and he's showing his two sons, Channelwood and all that stuff. And he comes back to Myst Island to discover one day that his library has been completely burned. All of his books have been burned. He's trying to figure out who did it. So what he did is he trapped both of his sons in what are called prison books, where basically no one can escape, and they're there by themselves. And the prison books actually have names. It's Spire and Haven. And Achenar was trapped in a blue book, and Cirrus was trapped in a red book. And the goal of the game is you can go to each one of these ages, the 4 ages, and you can get a red or blue page. And you can actually get both, but you have to go back to the island twice. Or you have to go back to the age twice. But you grab one of the pages, and you bring them to the prison book, and you can hear them a little bit better. Because when you play the game, all it is static, and then you just kind of see their face every once in a while. And then if you put a page in, you can see their face a little bit better, and you can hear a little bit better, but it's still mostly static. So that's kind of the point of Myst. It's trying to discover which brother burned the library down. Now, some of the books in the library are still there. They're still working. And a lot of them, the ones that are still like there and you can read, to talk about the history of each of the ages that are on Myst Island. So, for example, Channelwood. The Channelwood was an example of natural balance and mutual dependence. Originally, the place was a vast island amid the ocean, populated by humanoids, and in trees above them, monkey-like creatures. The island was disturbed by the occasional short rumblings of tectonic. Oh, that's right. There was also this whole thing with tectonic or volcanic activity that kind of made it so that there was only trees because it used to be an island, randomly ranging from slight to heavy. Everything in sight is covered by water, save a small rocky island. The waters originally were subtle and slowly changing colors constantly from deep blue to muddy orange, and then a beautiful clear. However, when the last human died, they stabilized to a permanent dull green. So there's all these trees. From the waters grow trees by many wooden passageways built just above the surface and go through the forest as far as the eye can see. Halfway up the grand trees is the village of the monkey-like people and can only be reached from the lower passageways by rope ladders. Which is another important little thing. The rocky island is occupied by a wind-powered hydroelectric power system. In order to power elevators for the walkways to the trees, it is unknown what the system was built by the natives, Atris, or his sons. So, oh wow, there's like a whole history about it. Yeah. And the history part, like, now this is like a whole thing, I'm not going to talk about it. Atris had called them the tree dwellers, and they were very primitive. They were a tribe type nation. And what had happened was there was a human when Atris went to go visit Channelwood, there was a human there. Actually, I'm going to put these here. There was a human there that they were worshiping as like a god, essentially. And because of the fact that they're so primitive, and they're more of a tribe type culture, and even when you go in to the actual age and talk about and discover kind of what happened to these people, they kind of have like masks hung up all around, and if you look into like one of their huts, it's a very primitive hut. So that's kind of where I think the congos are coming into play. Now, I don't think they were meant to be congos. I think they were just supposed to be like, drums of some kind that you would use with your hands that were, a big deal for native people. That's how a lot of their music came to be. So I'm almost certain that's where that is coming from in this particular song. It is important as defining what their culture was, essentially, right? So now we're going to write down some of the stuff that we've heard, right? So at this tree gate thing, we hear 3 instruments. We hear the piano and strings combo thing. We hear synth timpani because that's in literally everything in this game. And congos. Now, whether or not they were meant to be congos, I don't know. All I know is that it's a Congo sound, and maybe, the average person wouldn't know that, but they could hear that as drums. And once you go into Channelwood and you find out all these things, you'll realize, oh, okay, yeah, it's supposed to make sense with the environment, essentially. What's the other thing we hear? It's very basic. The melody, very basic melody, not much to it. It's open. You hear the song, there's parts and gaps in the song where all you hear is just the congos playing. And the timpani is really just rolling, and that's it. Like, the timpani will just have timpani rolls every once in a while. It's not that integral to the song. The congos are what's integral to the song, right? It's in A major, which means it's in a major key. And the reason why is because it's a solved puzzle. Games will do this often where, maybe the main theme of the game is in minor, which it is. The main theme of the game is in B minor. But when you solve a puzzle, that's a good thing. They will reward you and give you a happy song. And they will do that. type of thing, especially in puzzle games. They do that all the time, and usually it's like some big cheery thing. But in almost all puzzle games, it's like that. So that's another thing that's important. It's in a major key, which is a little different, not something that you may be used to. It's just very open, you know. It's an open song. It's a song that gives you a feeling of, okay, we're moving on. We're going to a new section of the game now. We're learning new things, right? We've just accomplished something. Now it's time to move on. So I'm just gonna click move on. Right. But that's really all there is to that. There's not much to it. Okay. I don't want to get like super deep and like, if a song is just simple, the song is just simple. Like, there's not, you can look into it as much as you want, but that's really the basis of what we need to know to continue with this song. Okay, we're going to move on to the next song. We're going to try to speed things up just a smidge, just try to get things going. So the next song is called Planetarium. Now, a lot of people would remember this song as the dentist chair song. And the reason why is because in the game, on Myst Island, I loved this song, by the way. This was a really cool song. Let me kind of explain what this is about. To solve one of the puzzles, there's a little building with a planetarium in it, and you sit in what looks like a dentist chair, because it's one of these chairs that you would sit in like this, and you lean back, and then there's this monitor that comes overhead and goes like this, and you're leaning back and you're looking up at this planetarium that's all above you with this monitor right over your head. So a lot of people would call it the dentist chair building because it's just how it looks. It looks like a dentist chair, and that's what this song is for. And like I said, you hear this music while this is all going on, and this is how you solve one of the puzzles that I think unlocks the stone ship age once you're in here. But the reason that there's music for this is because you're there for a while. Because what happens in the game itself is there's a tower that's above the library, and eventually you can go into this tower, and it gives you specific information about things. Very, very vague information. And one of the things they give you are 3 dates. And you're supposed to plug these dates into the planetarium to get astrological signs. You take those, and then you go outside, and all the astrological signs are just kind of like in a row, in 2 rows, and you click on them in a specific order. The stone ship age unlocks. Is how that works in the game. So you're sitting there plugging in these dates, and you have there's basically just these kind of levers that you pull up and down that will determine like what date it is, and then you have to write down each of the things. So you're there for a while. You're in this little planetarium place for a while. So they wrote music for it, which makes sense. Because if they didn't, it would be very boring. And I really like this one. So let's listen to this one and see what we hear. Now, it does go on from there a little bit. Not really. All it really does is the inner lines that are going on in there change slightly. So, first thing I notice as soon as you hear the song is there's this weird hum. And what it sounds like almost is like something's running in the background. Listen to this. See if you can hear this hum in the beginning. sure you can. And I think what that's supposed to resemble is just the planetarium thing turning on, right? It's not technically what it is because it's part of the song, but I think it's kind of supposed to resemble that while you're sitting there. There's this kind of little slow. There's this weird hum in the background, and it's supposed to be, ambient, and it's interesting. That is something that when I do begin rewriting this music, I'd probably keep that. It's not like going to be a direct rip, but I'm just saying like that would be something that I'd want to retain because that is subtle and important to, I think, your surroundings in the game. So there's this hum going on, and then we have what I believe is a soprano saxophone. That's what it sounds like to me. Maybe I'm wrong. It sounds to me like it's a soprano saxophone. And then a lot of strings. No drums. There's no percussion in this, really, at all. There's not even any of those pizzicato strings at all going on in the song. It's very, very just legato and very long. It's in G major. It's in a major key. There's really not even a lot of melody. It's just kind of like held out long notes throughout the entire piece. So those are the few things that we need to write down right there. Is first of all, there's a low humming that's pretty integral to the song, I would say. It's in G major. We have a soprano sax doing the melody. Okay. And we also have in the background lots of strings. And for the first time since we've started, there are inner lines. Now, what are inner lines? I've talked about this a lot since I've been streaming inner lines. Inner lines are extremely important. And what they do is they usually complement the melody in some way by either doubling it, going like a third up or a third down, or a fourth up or a fifth up and down, that kind of thing, or even a sixth. And what those are just the intervals. It's very important though, or sometimes what will happen is the inner lines will go on while the melody is stopped. So for example, in that song, what I'll do is like. There's these lines that stop after the melody stops, or is just holding a note. These lines will start. And they're important to not only fill space, but just to give the listener something different to hear, because a lot of the times the inner lines won't be as simple as a melody line. It'll be a little more, I don't want to say that it's like rhythmically more complex, but it's harmonically more complex. Or it just adds something to it, or it could even change the key of the song, like right then and there. Now this doesn't do any of that. It's in G major, it stays in G major. It just adds a little something to the song. And it's the first song with these like inner lines. So that's extremely important because this gives us a lot to work with. Lines. And that goes along with the strings too. Okay? No percussion. I don't think there's any percussion in this song. We're going to listen to it a couple more times, but I'm pretty sure there's absolutely no percussion in this song. What is that noise? Oh, it's some car outside. Now, here's the thing I have to explain too. When I'm rewriting this stuff, it's not going to be exactly the same instruments, right? The reason I'm writing the instruments down and things like that is to give me an idea of where their mindset was at when writing this for this particular topic. So, for example, we're in a planetarium. This is what they were thinking of in a planetarium, right? No percussion, long, drawn-out stuff, and very little moving lines. So that's what I think of. I don't think of like, oh, so I'm going to be using strings here, and I'm going to be using no percussion. I might use percussion. I don't know. It's going to be my choice since I'm rewriting the music. And now, how do we feel? I feel like this song gives you it's a calming sensation. think you feel calm, you feel safe, feel comfortable when when you hear this song. So we're gonna write calm, and I'm gonna write just calm and comfortable. I don't know about safe. I mean, maybe, but nah, I don't know. It's in G major. We'll listen to it a couple more times. I just want to see if there's any. I don't think there's any percussion, but I want to see. So there is a percussion, but you can kind of hear. I don't know. I don't think I'm alone in this, but there's these random little just like. I don't know what they are. It's kind of tough to hear, and that's not percussion. It's just a synth going on, I think, in the background. But it's just this very minor thing, and I don't know what it is or what it's there for, and I'm trying to figure that out. There's just this little something there. Right, you can hear that, and then right at the beginning is that thing, which I think that's just there as background. I think that's just there as like, I don't know, maybe it's a weird noise the planetarium makes when it turns on or something, I don't know, or it's buffering or whatever the hell. But those weird little things. Now, what could that be for? Is that important? Is that something that was just like, we need a little movement type of thing? Since the song is pretty boring on its own. Right? It's very just drawn out and kind of dull, honestly. Right? It's pretty dull. So these little, like, whatever they are, I don't know what the notes are, but these little things going on, like, what are they for? I think, now this could be me making a huge stretch here, I think they're there to remind you of other stuff. You know what I mean? I think that that's there to remind you, hey, you know, you still have this mission to accomplish. You still have this feat that you're still trying to, you know, that you still have this journey you have to go on. So you can't just spend your whole day in this planetarium just listening to this calming music or whatever. You know what I mean? I don't know. That like I said, this could be a big reach because it's only used really right in the beginning of the song. I don't think it's really anywhere else in the song, but I have this feeling that they threw that in because it's so specific and so, I guess, interestingly put in there. And it's like, why would you even bother with that? Like but I have a feeling it's just a quick recall to what is going on around you, just to remind you that, like, that's still happening while you're in this planetarium and there's this calming music. So listen to it just one more time here, just to see if you can hear what I'm saying. right? So they're little things that just kind of pop up. Now, again, I don't know if that was something that was intentional for the song. I don't know if that was something that was, how do I explain this? I don't know if that was something that was supposed to be oriented to it was supposed to be for the planetarium. But when I hear that, I don't think of it as like part of the song. I think of it as they're trying to remind you that there's still stuff going on. You know what I mean? Like I said, you can't just spend all day in this planetarium. There's all this other stuff going on. There's still the fact that this library is burned down, and you're supposed to figure out which son did it and all this stuff. So even though it's so minor and it's used so little, I think it's important to realize, because that's something we can add to our rewrite of this song, right? We can make that even more prevalent. You know what I mean? If I rewrote this song and added this kind of calming, easing effect, and then in the background there's just kind of this quick, like, part that would signal, hey, there's more to it, type of thing, right? So what I'm going to write is background movement, and in parentheses, right, signaling outside quest, I guess. I don't know. I define things very strangely when I'm writing stuff like this out, so it may not make much sense, but I'm slowly remembering what it is. Okay, so we're gonna move on. That's an important one, I think. So that's an important one, I think. So we definitely got to talk about that. I believe that this next one is an actual song. I'm not sure though. So we're gonna listen to it and then go from there. So it goes on from there. It's in C major, first off. First note is just this big... kind of a thing. I don't know what else it is, but what's interesting about this, now this is called Shipgate, and what it is just like Treegate, it is the when you solve the puzzle for the stone ship, it's how you get, it's the song that plays as you're getting into the book, like before you get into the book for the stone ship age, type of deal, right? That's what this is coming from. A lot of synths. Still, the percussion in this is a gong, which you hear, which is odd because it doesn't. Maybe it's just me, but that doesn't seem right. Right, we're going to a ship. Why is there a gong sound? I don't know. This is a little interesting song. Let's keep listening. So this is a very interesting one. This is similar, very, very similar to the planetarium. Except there's percussion. Very similar. It's got this... And it's got this doubling too. Of this melody is really interesting. It's like I think it's in fifths, but I think it changes. I don't think it's always in fifths. But it's got this doubling of the melody with strings, I believe. But there's this constant boom. There's another drone in this song. Very, very interesting song. So here's what I'm gathering from this. Let's write a couple things down here. Lots of strings, more strings. There's a drone sound along with a gong. We're in C major. All right. Let's keep listening. So what I'm hearing is strings that I think are doubling in mostly fifths, not entirely fifths, mostly fifths. Right. And this, I think the best way I can describe it is what you would hear if you were doing that thing with the wine glass where you like wet your fingers and you get an empty wine glass and you fill some of them and you get that kind of sound. I don't even know what you call that. But it's a synth of some kind. So a synth with fifths underneath. And those are in strings. Well, no. To be honest with you, it's not. It's not underneath. It's on top. And it's not strings. I think it's the soprano sax coming back again. Because if you listen to it, there are strings, but there are not strings. I am sorry. It's just that soprano sax. I'm thinking that, like, I'm so used to strings in this game. No. The way that it works is there's this synth doing the... whatever. It's going through all of the freaking notes in C major. Right. And then over top of it... Is that radiator loud to you? Over top of it is this of a saxophone, of that soprano sax, that same soprano sax sound that was in the planetarium. Right. And what's interesting, what's really cool about this whole thing already is that makes sense. You know why? Because the planetarium and the stone ship world are linked. Because the way you get to the stone ship world is through the planetarium. And they sound similar. How cool is that? It's got that kind of calming effect but it also has a little bit of I don't want to say uneasiness, but it's a little mysterious. It's a little unknown. Say unknown. But it's important. And the reason why it's important is because these two are linked. The way that you get to the Stone Ship Age is through the planetarium. If you play the game, that's how you get there. I described this already, how you do it. You know, you use the astrological signs you get from the planetarium to unlock the ship age. And they sound very similar. They both have this soprano sax. They both have this legato, long melody that's not very, it's not very complex. Both of them don't really have percussion. This just has this gong that goes on in the background. This has a drone that's kind of like the low hum that's going on in the other one. I wrote drone, right? Yeah. It's kind of like how in the planetarium there's the low hum that's being played. It's kind of the same thing. Not really, but it's somewhat similar, right? That's so interesting. I've never really picked up on that before. That's so interesting how they're linked, and they should be, because they go hand in hand. They both, they're both connected in some way. That's really cool. I like that a lot, actually. I like that that's implemented. So now I'm wondering if the Tree Gate is going to be linked in some way to another song as well. That's really cool. Okay. We're going to move on to the next one. The next one is The Tower. Oh, this song is awesome. This is probably my favorite song in this game. Definitely one of my favorite songs in this game. Maybe not my favorite, because I'm thinking of another one that also I really, really enjoy. So let's listen to this one. So that's it. That is probably the most basic song we've gotten so far. This is ambient. This is the first case, I think, of this atmospheric music. There is like nothing going on in this. It's That's it. The whole song. There's so much space in this one. And what's interesting is you spend, at least for the good portion of the game, you spend a decent amount of time at the tower. So let me explain the tower. The tower is in the library, and it gives you 4 specific clues. And the way it works is you rotate the tower to the different ages where they're placed on Myst Island. They give you a little map of Myst Island in the actual library, and you can rotate the tower to point at one of them. And when you go there, it gives you specific information about one of them. So if you point it, for example, when you point it at the ship, you go up in the tower, and this music starts playing, and you go up there, and on a plaque is written those dates. It's dates I was telling you about that you have to enter into the planetarium to do blah, 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 blah. to unlock the chip age. It gives you crucial information to figure out how to unlock one of the ages, right? So that's where that comes into play. And then you go back down in the tower, and then you rotate it again, and you keep going, blah, blah, blah. So that's kind of what's important about the tower. Now, although you're there quite often, you have to go there at the very least 4 times. I think actually you have to go a 5th time for something else, but at the very least you're there 4 times, right? Just to write down that information. And this was back in the day when you had to write down the information. There's no way to, unless you screenshotted it, which I don't even know if you could do that, if they had that technology available or whatever. I remember so vividly when I played this game. I used to ask my parents to buy me a notepad, and I would write all of this stuff on a notepad. And then when I went into the library to read the books, I'd write all of it in a notepad and write specific things in notepads and stuff. I was very adamant. I would draw stuff in the notepad just to like get. I wonder if I could find any of my Myst notepads. Actually, my dad had a bunch of notepads and stuff, and I just used his notepads. And he had notepads too, just in case. And I had like a bunch of sticky notes with all of this stuff written down on it. So the tower is one of those things that's very important to the game because you can't really move on without going up there and listening to that music and going there. So why is something that's so important so barren? Well, I think that's kind of what they're trying to go for. So we have this sort of. Well, first of all, it's just synths, right? It's just synths. There's no percussion, right? And a lot of empty space. It's in G major. But really, it almost revolves around a G major 7 chord. And eventually it goes up to E flat, which is something that's a little interesting. Right. Now, what is this supposed to get? What is the point of this? So it's in G major, but I mean that's a stretch. I mean, the notes are in G major, but that's a stretch to definitively mark it in G major because there's so little going on in this, right? But what's important about it? Well, really, the most important thing about this is the mood that it's supposed to put you in, and the first thing I think of is ominous. It's a very ominous, foreboding song that, even though it's in a major key, it's still kind of like, what exactly is? It's still just an unknown, right? So the first thing I'm going to write is ominous, even though I probably spelled that wrong. Listen to it again. You know what else is interesting about this song? Is you hear that weird echo? Listen like right before the note hits. Like right before he hits the note. It's a little ways in. But just listen to how that weird echo. So what is that? Well, that is the echo of the note being hit. Because, and what's interesting about it is in certain cases, it's a fifth away, which is crazy. But the important thing about this is they ramped the reverb up so much, and they made it so that it's supposed to sound like this echo. And it almost is supposed to sound like, this is what you would hear if it was far away, and this is what you would hear if this was close up. Right? And it's supposed to give you the sensation of this giant room, I think. So, it's a sensation of a large empty room, essentially. And I think that's really all we can say about this song. But anyways, it's supposed to give you this sensation of that. Now let's keep listening because I want to see if there's anything different. That's interesting how it gets slow like that because I never heard it do that before. So here's what I wrote. I wrote that there's a pan flute. That that's a pan flute sound. It's probably a synth pan flute, but it's a pan flute sound. And this weird... Right? Well, whatever. It's doubling in fifths for the most part. But it does in some cases. And there's this weird just reverb effect that's so... I think that's why I like it so much. It's supposed to give you this sensation that there's different sounds coming out, and this is how you would hear it if you were in a different room or if you were, if you were somewhere different. And it sounds like it's in a different key, almost. Or it sounds like it's a different note sometimes. Because if you've ever heard something that's like really far away, but you hear music, sometimes it'll sound like it's in a different key. Or it'll sound like it's a half step apart. This is kind of the same effect I think that it's trying to go for. But these fifth doublings are so sparse, you can't really tell. And it sounds more like someone's walking around a big room. And I think it's one of the coolest effects I've ever heard in music in general. Something I think that's very important to hear. And I think what gives that song its ominous feeling, its foreboding feeling, or how I wrote, the sensation of being in a large and an empty room. That's how this song is able to get that effect. So now we're going to write number 6. And what is the next song? The Last Message 4-chamber theme? I don't even know what this is. Let's find out. So, hold on one sec. Okay, here's what I wrote immediately. First of all, this, what this is there is a little, how do I describe this? There is a little, how do I describe this now? There's a little chamber. This is called the 4-chamber theme, or the last message. As soon as you start the game, if you look immediately to your left, there's a little underground chamber that's underneath the island of Myst that you can go in. And there's a little video monitor type thing that kind of displays this hologram type deal. And if you type in certain numbers, things will display. So if you type it, and then if you go out of the chamber and you go on Myst Island, there's a note that says, count the number of marker switches, which is a thing in the game that I can explain later. Count the number of marker switches on the island and input that into the video thing. The marker switches, what they do is if you turn them on, that lets you, when you do the tower rotations, it lets you lock onto the marker switches, and then they appear on. Basically it makes it so that they appear on the map, and they also become important later on too. But so when you do that, this message appears, and this is like one of the only couple of senses. This is one of the only times that video is played in this game. Because for the most part, it's not. There's no video. It's just like straight slides, and it's Atris giving you like a last message, and it's supposed to be for Catherine, who's his wife, who's supposed to be there. We don't know what happened to her or where she is. You find out in the next game actually, but it's supposed to be for her, and it's him basically outlining the story of the game, saying, "I imprisoned our sons. Someone burned our library. I don't know who it is. I need you to find out. I need you to go to these ages and find out which son did it." So basically, it's him. It's the last message before he then gets imprisoned. You find out later he's imprisoned himself, and he can't get out either. I don't remember why or like how that happened, but yeah. So basically, he outlines the story of the game. And this is the music that's in this chamber while you're figuring that out. And the chamber is just kind of a dark. It's weird because this music sounds nothing like what you would expect. It's just kind of this dark, dank cavern with just this video monitor in it, and like there's nothing else to it. You know what I mean? So it's a little misrepresented almost. It's a little bizarre. I would never expect it to come from this place. You know what I mean? So here are the things that I wrote down. First of all, it recalls one of the other songs in the game, and I don't remember which one it is exactly. I have to look back at it. Well, first of all, the pizzicato strings, you hear the doom 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 doom. That's from the main theme of Myst. And I think it mostly recalls from the main theme of Myst, but let me listen to it again. It mostly draws from the main theme of Myst. It's kind of like a variation on it, except it's in major. And what's interesting is it's in G major. So listen to the main theme of Myst again, and then listen to that. So it takes a lot from the main theme, actually. This do, but it's in major. It's instead of in minor, it goes to a major key. Right. It's in major this time. So it recalls from the main theme a lot. Now, what is it supposed to symbolize? Well, this is a tough one. Because, really, to be honest with you, I'm not entirely sure. This one isn't as defined as the other ones. Because it's just, to me, is so different than the other ones that we've listened to. So... let's keep listening to it. So to me, it's almost telling a story of kind of what has happened up until this point. It's not meant to, this song is not meant to make you feel anything. It's just kind of supposed to be telling you a bit of a story, kind of what's going on. A little bit, I think. Now, here's what I had written down already, like while I was listening, because I think it's better to do that. I wrote, obviously, synth timpanis. You hear that so often in this one. Strings that are playing with chords, which is the first instinct. It's the first instance of that. That's what I meant to say. Because you don't hear that. You haven't heard that yet. Chords are so not even a thing in this music. It's not. It's something I can't. That's tough for me to handle because I love chords. Being a piano player and all. So there's like no chords in this music, but there are almost full chords in this, and you know, moving parts. What else did I write? Oh, there's a harp sound, just kind of doing this. Listen to the harp sound. See if you can hear the harp sound. It's brief, right? You don't hear it for very long, but it's there. There's this harp sound. And it does it again. But what it's doing is just arpeggiating the chord. Okay? So there is this harp sound. It's in G major. I wrote royal. It sounds very royal sounding. I also wrote it has a string quartet feel because there's a bass, there's at least a cello or two, there's a viola or two, and there's at least two violins. So maybe not quartet, but it's like a string group type of feel to it. Okay. There's also these wind chimes that keep going on. It's just ding, 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 ding kind of thing that just kind of are in there. It's a very full sound I wrote because there's not many gaps. You can really hear a full chord. That's kind of the point of the song. And then, yeah, the fact that the pizzicato strings throughout there reminisce the theme. This is a very reminiscent song of the theme. It's just in major this time. So, recalls theme often, but in major. So, this is obviously an important piece. It's kind of a theme and variation based off of the original theme. Important to remember, important to know. Okay, we'll move on to the next one. Fortress Ambiance Part 1. So here's the thing about this. Depending on what exactly this is, we may or may not use it. Because if it's just like noises, I'm not gonna rewrite noises. You know what I mean? Like there's no point in doing that. So we're just gonna listen to this. I just want to hear what it is, what it sounds like. If it's actual music, then yeah, we're gonna rewrite it. So. Now we're rewriting that, and there's a reason. There's a beat to it. There is a rhythm to it, and it's important to the actual music, or it's important to the game. It's not just noises. Like for example, on Myst Island, and this probably isn't a song even on here. On Myst Island, there's just like wind noises and like sometimes bird noises as you get farther down while you're like going through the island. There's no like that. There's no point in rewriting like. There's nothing to rewrite. It's just noises. This is not just noises. There's a beat to it, and it's just a different type. It's not just noises. It's just there's beat to. There's different types of percussion. There's almost like a pitch, but it's tough to tell. I think it's just Timp Symphony, or Timp Symphony, synth timpani. I think that's the only thing that there really is. As far as like any sort of like rhythm or like what key it's in or anything like that, but the important thing is this is called Fortress Ambiance. That's the name of this particular one, and there's two parts to it. So actually, let's listen to the second one. So it's very similar to the first. The only difference is this beginning doom 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 at the beginning, but the rest of it is pretty similar. Which I don't even know what the difference between the two is in the game. If I don't remember all that well, to tell you the truth. So what's important about this? Let me think about where this comes into play, like where you hear this. You hear this in the mechanical age of the game, and you hear this because the mechanical age of the game, there's just a big fortress. That's as you're walking around the fortress, you hear this music. I'm pretty sure. I may be wrong. I'm pretty sure that's where you hear this music. Yep, it is. I'm looking at the comments now, and it's like, yep, I totally remember this. Yeah, so you hear this in the Fortress Age. Fortress Age, Mechanical Age. And this is why you're walking around the entire fortress, because that's basically the entire age. So this is important in some way. So, what do we know about it, like, right off the bat? Well, first of all, it's just a lot of percussion. So, it's a lot of percussion. There isn't really any pitch. There's not a major or minor key in this. So, not much pitch. And there's a lot of reverb because we're supposed to be in a fortress, right? And what does it give you? It gives this. It just kind of sounds like a fortress, like, you know. There's not much more to it. There's really nothing else I can write. It's a lot of percussion. It has a steady beat to it. There's not much more to it, really. I mean, let's do it again, just to continue. So in the second one, there is some pizzicato strings, just barely. You can barely hear them, and not to mention that whatever percussion instrument is doing the doom 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 has some pitch. There's also a bass, just doing a G, just with a G, just doing that every once in a while. That's not that important, but it is there. Okay, so we do know there is something there. It's not entirely no pitch or anything like that. So there is some stuff there to it. There is some substance, but it's mostly, just pretty strictly, rhythm, which is fine. We can still write stuff for that, and find different sounds. Now, we move on to for us it's 8, for them it's 9, because there's 2 parts of this fortress ambiance, and we're not going to make that distinction. We're just going to write one part, okay? It's not really that big a deal. I'm going to move this up a smidge, because I don't want to keep knocking into the thing. Okay, now we have the mechanical Myst gate, which is going to be kind of like the tree gate, and kind of like the ship gate, except it's the mechanical ages version of that. So, I'll write mechanical Myst gate. So I guess they're calling them gates. I didn't even realize that. They're calling them just like, gates to get into the next world. So let's listen to this one. Interesting. Now I never really listened to this song completely. So here's what I wrote, and I think this just tells it all. I don't even really think that there's much else to write other than this, because this explains the entire thing. This is fortress ambiance. It's the same music, the same rhythm music going on in the background with a melody of pizzicato strings and harp going on over top of it. Just kind of going... and then, there's other... I don't think it's that. Going up over top of it with pizzicato strings, not long strings. Not only that, and then all of a sudden it recalls the 4-chamber music. And it brings that back a little bit. Just for a little bit, but it brings it back. So that's interesting. It's recalling other things, too. This particular one. Which, that's really cool. I like that a lot, actually. How they're doing that. That's really all there is to it. I mean, it's the same type of thing where it's bringing back these. I'm just checking to see how many more we gotta do, because I want to do all of these by the time I'm done streaming, so that starting either by the end of the stream or beginning, we can start writing down actual music. We might need to save that for tomorrow, but this is all extremely. You have to understand how important this all is too. That's so cool, though. I like that a lot. It's recalling. It's starting to slowly recall things. Now that we've built up a bit of a repertoire of music, it's going to start recalling those things and bringing them back and making them more important. So I'm going to use the. I'm going to be right back. I'm going to grab something else to drink. Actually, I still got this coffee, but still. I will be right back, and we're going to continue filling out more of this Myst soundtrack. Back at it. Let's keep listening to some stuff. So now we're on, well, it's number 9 for us, number 10 for the actual soundtrack if you're, for whatever reason, following along, but you could, sure. This next one, I don't know if this is a song either. I don't know if it's a song or if it's just the voice track, but let's just listen to this. I don't know if I know where this is from. Let me listen to this is called Sirius's Cache. Let me listen to Akinar's Cache. Okay. I think, maybe I'm wrong. I believe that this is, so here's the thing that we have to discuss too about Myst. Because this is something I haven't gone over yet. In the game, you have these two brothers, right? You're trying to just figure out which one of them did burned the library. Right? That's the whole point of the game. You have Sirius and Ashinar. And they both kind of have different personalities. They both have a similar mindset, which is that they both kind of feel like they want to take over these ages and rule over them, but they both want to do it in different ways. Sirius is more of a royal type of guy who wants to be, he wants to have servants for himself, and he wants to be pampered and rule that way. I guess he's more of a I don't want to say kind. He's not kind-hearted. Like if you ever meet, he's a little more pompous, I guess. And Akinar is more of a bloodthirsty, like war general type of dictator, essentially, who wants to rule things with war and killing people and torture people and all that kind of thing. And the thing is, in each of the ages, they have their own rooms. Because they fight constantly over who's going to rule over what age. So they have their own themes for each age, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure it's each age. Yeah, it's pretty much every single age. They have their own... Yeah, they pretty much have their own theme for each one. Now, these cache themes, I don't know exactly what they're for, but I will tell you that they're in the mechanical age. Which makes sense. You can hear the mechanical age rhythm in the background with all this stuff going on. Now, the other thing that I notice is there's this drone that's back again. This drone sound. I think it's an E. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's an E. But let's listen. So here's the thing. There's Cirrus Cash is his own sound, this own song, and then right after it is Cirrus's theme for the Mechanical Age. So what I want to know is the difference between the two. So we're gonna play the Cash theme quickly, and then we're gonna play the Mechanical Age theme. So let's just listen to those two. Okay. So what I'm gathering, really, I'm still trying to figure it out. I think what it is though, is that it's just another room in the Mechanical Age that's specifically played in, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna look it up because I'm curious now. I'm gonna look up exactly what it is. Sirius's hidden treasure room. Really? It only plays in that room? That seems so specific. Oops, 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 oops. Okay, yeah, I guess so. Really? Wait, so Akinar has one too? I didn't think Akinar had one. Apparently he does. Yeah. Really? I gotta be honest with you. That was something I didn't know. I did not realize. I mean, I guess it kind of makes sense. So, here's the thing. We're going to kind of combine those two things because I don't think it's as important to keep them that separately. Okay, so what it is, this is another thing I have to kind of explain. As I said, Cirrus and Akinar both have themes in each of the worlds because they have their own specific rooms that they've been using to battle against each other. In the Mechanical Age, they have hidden rooms, both of them, and that's where the pages are kept. That's where you find the red and blue pages that you bring back to them, right? And I guess that's kind of what they're talking about here. That's what these caches are. And it's a very subtle... there's not really much of a difference, but we can go over it. I think what's more important, though, is the actual theme. So here's how we're going to write it out, okay? We're going to write, for number 9, Cirrus's theme and cache. And this is for Mechanical Age. Okay. Write it out like that. Because they're very similar. So let's listen to the Mechanical Age theme again. And let's just see what we know. And I'll be writing while we listen. So here's what I'm gathering. Here's what I've written. Okay. The Fortress ambiance music is right in the background. You can hear that pretty easily, right? The pizzicato strings are back from the main theme, and I think that's important. Okay. That's something that you'll soon find kind of helps define Cirrus, is he likes these strings. That's what brings this like royalty type of pompous look. And if you look at his like actual rooms in the game, like throughout the other ages, they're very classy. They're very royal looking. Obviously expensive taste type of thing. He tries to, really spruce up his different rooms. There's a huge dynamic between him and Akinar. I wrote, there's this soprano sax, barely, just a little bit, but it's with a violin, and they kind of go back and forth between who has the melody. It's in a major key, which is important. Because why? But the interesting thing is why would it be in a major key? You would think it'd be in a minor key. I would think it'd be in a minor key, right? But it's not, because it's supposed to be, he's a dictator and all this stuff. But I guess it's kind of a thing where he's trying to maintain that royalness, I guess, and he doesn't want anything to seem like it's too bad. I wrote that a lot of it recalls the Myst theme, and a lot of it recalls the planetarium theme. Actually, I really don't even think that the Myst theme thing is true. It's more so that it recalls the four-chamber theme. The four-chamber and planetarium. Mostly the four-chamber theme. Which is interesting, because the four-chamber is kind of a neutral spot. And it shouldn't really recall that, to tell you the truth. It's a neutral spot. Like, that doesn't belong to either of them. But it's interesting that it recalls a lot of the four-chamber theme things. And then I wrote it separately over here, the cache. This one, what did I even write? I can't even read this. It brings back that drone that's in the main theme. It's also in a major key, and it is a lot simpler. It sounds a lot like... It actually sounds a lot like the... where is it? Right, it recalls the four-chamber theme quite often. And I also said that it's similar. It's very similar to the main theme, in a way. But it's more this royal thing, right? Now we're going to listen to both Akinar's cache and his theme. So what we're going to write here, what I'm going to write, is number 10. Akinar's theme and cache in the Mechanical Age. Okay, so let's listen to that. See what that sounds like. I'm going to be writing again while we listen to that. So. Okay, so this one's pretty simple to decipher. The cache is in minor, and it's the exact same thing as Cirrus's theme. The same probably the same contour and everything as Sirius's cache, but it's just in minor. Right. The main theme is interesting. It has harp, it has strings. It's in minor, and essentially, I wrote essentially the same version as Sirius's theme, but in minor. And that's the important thing about this. Is it's very, very similar, except it's in minor. And it just kind of has a couple more things. It has this. Kind of a thing going on, right? It's just in minor. Or whatever. But it's basically the same thing, right? So we flip that over, we're going to go to the next one. Because there's not much more to tell. It's not that much more different than any of the other songs. So we could do to number 11. And number 11 is Compass Rose. I actually think I know what this is, but I think. Well, maybe I don't. Well, let's listen to it and figure out what it is, and we'll go from there. So we're now moving. So we've now basically looked at everything that's in the Mechanical Age, right? We've done the Fortress Ambiance thing. We've done the Myst Gate for the Mechanical Age, and then the Two Brothers themes in the Mechanical Age. So Mechanical Age is now done. Now we're moving on, it looks like, to the Stone Ship Age, because I believe that all this stuff is from the Stone Ship Age. Yeah, it is, for the most part. So now we're going to move on to the Stone Ship Age and the different things that are going on there. So let's listen to I don't know what Compass Rose is, but let's listen to it. I'll throw this down here. Okay, before we continue, we're going to go back and listen to it. What this is, so in the Stone Ship Age, there is a point where you're supposed to, there's a compass in the Stone Ship Age. And all the thing about the Stone Ship Age, the interesting thing about that you're trying to figure out is all the lights are off. The electricity is broken. And you're trying to figure out how to turn it on. And there is a way to turn it on, and this compass seems to be revolved around it. Once you have to hit a certain button on the compass, and once you hit that button, it then turns all the lights on, and you're basically done with the game because you turn all the lights on. You can find the book now, and you open up and turn on the book, or you open up the book, and then you can go back. Okay, so the thing is, in all of the ages, you're trying to do two things. You're trying to find one of the pages, and then you're trying to find how to unlock the book and leave. That's it. That's the only two things you're trying to do in the game. And then you go back a second time, get the second page if you want, and then leave. You can do one or the other. It doesn't really matter. So that's kind of the goal of each of these ages. So this is another one of those songs that you would hear. You solved the puzzle because you did. Now you're free to leave. So that's kind of what this is supposed to be displaying to you. Okay, so I'm going to continue to write, and we're going to and yes, this is in the Stone Ship Age. Let's listen to it again. Okay, so to me, this recalls the planetarium theme. It's almost exactly like the planetarium theme. The only difference is there's timpanis this time. There's actual stuff. It has the soprano sax in it, and it has the strings that are both kind of doing melody stuff. I put strings are doubled because eventually they kind of pile on. A lot of the strings in this game are like string quartet type things. Synth timpani, and there's also a synth gong in it. That gong sound is a synth. And those are extremely important because, like I said, the two things that they love in this game are the synth timpanis and the strings. Love those in this game. And yeah, it's in major. It's in D major. I don't think that matters much. I'm gonna write D major. I don't think it matters what specific key, but it's in major, which makes sense because you just solved that age essentially. So they're gonna play you a major song because you solved the age. So of course they're gonna make it sound, happy and good because you solved the puzzle. And that's what they do for all of the stuff in this game. So we're gonna move on to number 12. So number 12, and the reason why we're trying to speed up here on these things is because now we're getting to the point where we have like 5 songs that are being recalled constantly, and those would be the Myst main theme, the Planetarium song, the 4-chamber theme, the Fortress theme, and really just those two will be recalled quite often. The 4-chamber, the Fortress theme isn't anymore now that we're out of the mechanical age. We're not going to hear that anymore, really. We're mostly going to hear recalls of other things. So now, this next one, this is the one I thought was coming up. It's called the Telescope theme. Because in the actual game, in order to figure out what button you're supposed to press on the compass from the previous example, you have to look through a telescope, and you have to, a light shines through a lighthouse, and you look through this telescope, and there's like a 360, I guess it's like a ruler type thing, that wherever the light shines is what button you're supposed to press, and if you ever played Myst, you kind of understand how it goes. But this is important because basically the whole game takes place on this ship, but it's basically a shipwreck. It's not really like a floating ship in the middle of nowhere. There are rocks that you can go to and little platforms that you can go to, and in particular there's this kind of spire looking thing that you can climb up to the top, and as you're climbing up to the top and get to this telescope that's up at the top of the spire, this song is playing, and it's very simple and it's really cool, and it's totally a different feeling from the rest of the game, or from the rest of the age I should say. So let's listen to this one. Okay, so we got kind of an idea of what's going on here. So this telescope theme, pan flute, that's important. That's like the main thing, is this pan flute. It says probably a synth pan flute, but it's a pan flute. I put A minor or sus. What that means is it's in A minor, but it doesn't immediately tell you it's in A minor. It starts off with... and then eventually it goes to... But it does try to avoid the fact that it's an A minor, it seems like to me. Which is relevant because it tells me that it wants you to think that it's a sus chord, or that, you know, that you're in a sustained key, or you're in a different key. You know what I mean? It gives you the feeling of loneliness, I think. This is completely different. This does not recall anything, really. I guess you can kind of say that the melody's similar to, like, the Planetarium theme or the Four Chamber theme, similar, but not. It's really its own entity. But I would say it gives you a feeling of loneliness. It gives you a feeling of being high up, because it has to. And there's a lot of empty space. And it does have some strings, mostly bass stuff, if it has any strings, but very, very little. I mean, let's listen to it one more time. I want to try to pick that out. You know what's interesting? It's very faint, but there's some recall to the tower. You can kind of hear that ding, 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 just like in the tower. There's some recall to the tower. That's really, I never heard that. In all the years I've played this game, I have never heard that. There's a little bit of recall. See if you can try to pick that out. Just barely. There's a little bit of recall to the tower. You hear that a little bit? Just a little bit. There's just a smidge. A little bit of a recall to the tower. And I think it's there because it's supposed to give you that feeling of emptiness again. And that's kind of what the tower was good at. So every little thing's got just a little bit of recall to something. That's really cool. I've never seen that before, actually. Go back to this. I like that a lot. That's awesome. That's really, really awesome. I'm glad they put that in there. That's really cool. So the next one is going to be Sirius's theme. And this is going to be Sirius's theme in the Stone Ship Age, which is a big one. And then the next one is Akinar's theme in the Stone Ship Age. And the big thing with these two, with whenever it's, you know, whenever we're doing someone's theme, is listening to the difference between the two. I'm just writing down both of them just so that it's easier, and also so that we can write in both of them and write the differences between the two. It's always important for these two because there's such a big dynamic between the two, and it's important to remember that kind of thing. So let's listen to Sirius's theme at the Stone Ship Age. first thing I noticed immediately, it is exactly the same thing as the Mechanical Age version of his theme. The only difference is what's underneath all of it. So the Mechanical Age theme of Sirius's theme, underneath all of it was the Fortress ambiance music. Underneath this is a drone, and then just kind of some bass notes, and that's it. It's exactly the same thing. There's like no difference. I'm even erasing this. It is literally, it's not even very similar. It is exactly the same to the Mechanical Age one. Exactly the same. It's just what changes underneath all of it. And that's probably going to be similar for most of the themes, to be honest with you. Most of Sirius and Akonar's themes are going to be almost exactly the same. Just whatever's underneath the themes is what's going to change. So there's now this drone with other bass notes. Now I'm trying to figure out if this drone and other bass notes is resembling something else in the actual game that I'm not hearing. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna go back to Shipgate. Shipgate was the song that we're listening to as you're entering Stone Ship, and see if there's some similarities between the two. Okay, so we have that. Now we're going to go to Compass Rose. Compass Rose was the thing, once you solve Stone Ship Age, this is what plays. Okay, and now we're going to listen to, which those are some similarities already. It's just the bass notes that are similar. And now we're going to go to Sirius's theme in Stone Ship Age. Okay, so here's the thing that I'm gathering from all this. This is all going to be extremely important because once we start working on rewriting this soundtrack in the way that we want, we're going to have to remember these key songs as things that we have to recall. Because, yes, the goal of the thing I'm trying to accomplish is I'm trying to completely rewrite the Myst soundtrack. I want to make my own Myst soundtrack, something that would fit with the game exactly like this, right? But there are some things that we have to retain. And the things that we need to retain, I think, are the theme and variation that are brought up throughout the songs, and which songs are important and which ones aren't quite as important. So, for example, the Myst theme is extremely important. So whatever we make as the Myst theme needs to be something that is easily defined, simple, and something that people can recall and would remember after we can, if you hear it in a different sense. That's important. The four-chamber theme is important because the four-chamber theme is where we basically discover the story of the game. So that is recalled so often, we got to know that. The themes of the two brothers are extremely important because they're recalled 4 times, at least 4 times. So you have to be able to have something that's somewhat catchy, that can resemble the two different brothers, and they have to be complete opposites of each other in some way, shape, or form. Each of the main ages theme is important because they'll be brought back a bunch of times throughout the game, like throughout the age that you're in, right? So that is important. And then the other things that are important are like the tower theme and the planetarium theme, which are also both brought back in a variety of different ways. So it's important to kind of discover at least 5 songs that are going to be recalled and used often. So we're going through Sirius's themes now, okay? So we've gone through the Mechanical Age theme. We know how Sirius's theme sounds. And it's the exact same thing as Sirius's theme in this one, in this age. It's slightly different, but it's pretty similar. The only real difference is what's underneath it. And I would bet you if we go to another age and play it, it's going to sound exactly the same. It's just that whatever's underneath it is going to change. Right. So that's kind of the deal here. It is the exact same thing as the mechanical age. The only difference is what's underneath it. And what's underneath it is this drone, which is somewhat similar to the ship, to the stone ship's sort of theme. I guess you would call it the stone ship's theme. You know what I just realized? I wrote all that stuff under Akinar, and I don't know why. No idea why. So what I'm going to do... So I'm going to... It's probably going to be the same thing. It's probably going to sound exactly the same as the mechanical age, except slightly different with what's underneath. So, we're now going to listen to Akinar's theme in the Stone Ship Age and see what the differences are. So here's something that's different. There's no pizzicato strings in this one. If you remember the mechanical age, there's that boom, ding, 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 ding. There's none of that in here. So what that relays to me is that this one is a little more legato. Both of these are more legato than the other one. It doesn't move quite as much. They're both more just longer and more drawn out. It's the same theme. There's just less movement. And I guess that makes sense because the Mechanical Age song has more rhythm. This doesn't, because the Stone Ship thing is mostly just a drone. Just kind of droning on, I guess. So that's the big difference, I think, between the two. Is that the Mechanical Age, its main theme is kind of just this rhythm that's going on. And the Stone Ship Age is just kind of this long drone with long lines being played. So the different themes are present there. So this next one is the Selenitic Mistgate. Selenitic? I don't know how that's pronounced. I'm going to call it Selenitic. So that's the next age. So let's hear what that sounds like. So obviously this is its own entity. It's in minor. The pan flute is brought back. There's just bass strings. That's really all it is. There's not any percussion. So I'm going to put no percussion. And the synth from the tower is brought back slightly. So what does that mean? Well, the tower theme hasn't really been that notable throughout the game. The only time it's notable is in the telescope theme, and that's it. It's the only time it's ever recalled. Now, in the actual game, there's 1, 2, 3, and then I guess the Myst theme would be 4. There's 4 songs on the island of Myst. Yeah, we got to discuss this. There's 4 songs on the actual island of Myst, and then there's 4 main themes for each of the ages. So there's basically a total of 8 songs that are kind of recalled. Now, obviously, depending on what age you're in, depends on, you know, the mechanical age theme, which is the fortress theme, is brought back in all the other songs, right? The Compass Rose theme is brought back in all the other Stone Ship stuff, right? The Tree Gate theme is brought back in all the Channelwood stuff, I'm sure. We haven't gotten there yet. And the Selenitic Myst Gate theme is probably going to be brought back in all those, right? Now, the Myst themes, the ones on Myst Island, are the regular Myst theme song, the Planetarium, the Tower, and the Four Chamber. And those are also all brought back in some way, shape, or form to the different stuff, right? So we've gotten the Four Chamber theme to be brought back quite often, which it's brought back in the Mechanical Age slightly, for the Four Chamber theme. The Planetarium is brought back in the Shipgate theme quite often. And as of right now, the Tower is now being brought back in the Selenitic Age. Now, we don't know anything about Channelwood yet, but it may bring back stuff from the Myst game, from the Myst theme. So all of what I'm basically trying to get to is all of the songs on Myst Island are being brought back in the Age music. It's being incorporated in the Age music, which is something that's important, I think, to note. And actually, that's something that I'd like to write, you know, somewhat at the top, or down here. We'll write all songs on Myst Island incorporated into Age themes, which is important. So, more about the Selenitic Age. It's in minor. It's pretty barren sounding. And that's really all I have to say about that. It's kind of tough to keep going off of that. Now, there's a song called Temple of Achenar, which I don't really know what that is, to be honest with you. I want to figure out where that's from specifically. Actually, this is gonna kind of tell me where it is. Oh yeah, this is great. Temple of Achenar is heard in Achenar's Temple in Channelwood. Okay, so this is another thing to bring up. The Selenitic Age doesn't really have any music, and there's a reason for it, because the Selenitic Age is the sound age. A lot of the stuff in the Selenitic Age is based off of listening to things, and a lot of the puzzles are all listening puzzles and music puzzles. In fact, the way you get into the Age is by playing a keyboard and listening to the keyboard. That's how you get into the Age. Therefore, a lot of the puzzles are like that. Okay, so there's not really any music in that Age. There's more just sounds and sound effects that are in that Age. Okay, so from now, we've moved on to Channelwood already. So now we're in Channelwood. So try to remember the congos, or the bong. I keep calling them congos. They're bongos. They're not congo. Congo is a country. They're bongos. I knew I was saying that wrong. I'm like, something's wrong about that. That's not quite right. Okay, so remember the bongos, and remember the theme a little bit. I'll play it one more time.
that kind of makes sense. Now, we're going to play the Temple of Achenar. Now, I don't know specifically what this is. We may make music out of it. We may not. Let's just listen to it quickly. So I can tell you already kind of what this is. I don't remember this in the game. That's the problem. I'm going to type it in here on... because I kind of want to figure out what it is. So, it doesn't really explain what the temple is, but okay, I guess understand this in Channelwood. Channelwood, of all of the ages, has the most backstory to it. There's an entire book written about just Channel Age. All the other ones kind of have some books written about them, but like Channelwood is the one that most of them, the most of the backstory is on. So they talk about how there's these native people that are part of Channelwood and all this stuff, and how there was a human that ruled over that they all worshipped and stuff, and the human eventually died. So when Achenar and Sirius went to go take over Channelwood because they wanted to rule all these ages, he, I'm assuming, built this temple, and he also builds a hologram where he learned the language of the creatures and would shout at them to get them to do things. So this temple music, I'm pretty sure, plays here. I believe we should still write for it, and I will write Temple of Achenar down here. And let's listen to it again and just try to figure out what it's recalling. Okay, so what I wrote is it recalls the tower theme a little bit. This synth noise is kind of like a pan flute, is kind of symbolizing the pan flute-like thing in a little bit, but not really. It's more so like a different version of the tower synth that's used. There's a lot of empty space, and eventually there's this drone sound that keeps playing that's in C. And it's also in minor. All important stuff for this particular age. Now we only have a few more songs left. We have to do Sirius and Achenar's themes in Channelwood, and then I think there's 2 more songs after that. And then we're basically done with the music of this game. So we're gonna write Sirius's theme in Channelwood, and Achenar's theme in Channelwood. Okay, and let's listen to Sirius's theme. So, very easy. It's the exact same thing as the other Cirrus and Achenar themes, although the pizzicato strings are back. So I'm gonna make sure I write that. And I think the only reason that they were omitted from the Stone Ship Age, like they were, oh no. I think the only reason they were omitted was because that just didn't move as much. That particular theme was very just legato, and there was no point. Those pizzicato strings didn't fit there. The only difference now is it has these bongos in them, and also other just kind of like primitive percussion instruments that are involved. But it's the exact same thing as all the other themes, which is great. So now we know kind of how they developed the music for all of this stuff. All of the Cirrus and Achenar themes are exactly the same. It's just whatever is underneath them as background, it changes with what age that you're in, essentially. Okay. So now that we kind of understand that, we're going to move on to the last. I think there's only 2 songs left in the soundtrack. No, there's only one. Well, there's all these other, there's like a couple of other themes, and I kind of want to see what the difference is between them. And there's an unfinale theme and a finale, which means, because you can lose in this game. There's a couple ways to lose in this game, and it only happens at the very end. So I'm assuming that the unfinale theme is like if you lose, game over, and then the finale theme. Well, let's see what the real difference between the two is. Okay, so there actually is a pretty big difference between the two. So I thought it was just going to be one's major, one's minor. No, there is a big difference between these two, which means we, yes, have to write 2 different things. So we'll write unfinale, and we'll write finale, and we'll figure out what the difference between those two is, essentially. And then we're basically done. I mean, there are a couple of other little things. I want to see what they are and see, like, what the differences between them are. There's 3 other songs in the Myst soundtrack, and I want to see if they're important enough for me to want to write, a rewrite of them or not. So we'll do that afterwards, but let's listen to the unfinale theme and figure out what it sounds like. Okay, so it's kind of this long legato, just sad, depressing music. Sounds like game over. That's what it's supposed to sound like. It doesn't really mimic anything else, I don't think. At least not like immediately. It's not like, to me, it's not registering as anything else like specific. If that makes any sense. To me, it's just kind of its own little thing. It might resemble something else, and I'm just not thinking of it right away. So what I'm going to put in parentheses is possible recall. And if it is, we'll figure it out and we'll go from there. But now we have to do the finale, because the finale does represent something else. Okay, so it recalls the planetarium theme. Obviously, the planetarium theme is like the first thing I hear. I broke Compass Rose. I don't know if I have to listen to Compass Rose again. Sort of. It sort of resembles Compass Rose. Not really, though. It's more the planetarium theme. Underline it. It develops into its own song, and I wrote that specifically because it does. Like, there's other stuff going on in it. It starts off with kind of mimicking the planetarium theme, but there's more synth timpani, way more synth timpani. Big important thing. Soprano sax and strings, and then I wrote some chords because, yeah, they sort of develop some chords after a while. But that's it. That's it. So what we're going to do now is there are 3 other songs that are a part of this album, I guess, this soundtrack, and I just want to listen to what they are and see if they're important enough to eventually use. The first one is called Fireplace Theme because if you don't know, the fireplace puzzle, there's a fireplace in the library, and the fireplace puzzle is the last puzzle in the game. So I want to see what this is. Okay, that's straight up not even in the final cut of the game. So I think that these 3 songs are not in the... Because another one is Early Selenitic Mistgate and Original Unfinale. So I'm assuming that these next 3 songs are not at their bonus tracks and they're not really in the game. But let's... So I'm not going to do this one because it's not really in the game. Now let's listen to the last 2. Yeah, that's not in the game either. Listen to Original Unfinale. So that's literally the planetarium music with like some stuff taken out of it, and also not in the original in the game. So we're ending it at 20 because those 3 songs are just not really part of the game. Okay. So 20 songs is a little more than I thought. Honestly, I forgot about a lot of these songs that were actually in the game. This is a big deal. So now we have 20 songs that we have to do for this. This is why this is like a more of a month-long project than a couple-week project. The 10 projects we did, we finished with. We did a whole set of rough drafts and a whole set of final drafts, which is basically 20 songs. But we did all of that in 2 weeks. This is a 20-page whatever, or a 20-song soundtrack that we're now going to make. Okay, so here's the thing. I can only stream maybe for another 45 minutes, probably till 1. Then I need to get going. I have some things I have to do. Maybe I can go a little longer. Depends on if we start getting some people in here or not. It's looking a little barren today, which is fine. It happens. All I can say, though, is that we have now our soundtracks. And I don't... The thing is, though, I don't want to start writing a theme and then have to stop. Because that's going to be the most important thing, is what the theme of our new project is going to be. So let's what we're going to do, let's lay out exactly how we're going to write this stuff out, okay? So we have now 2 pages of exactly what each one of these songs are going to sound like, what they do sound like currently, and kind of what they instill in terms of feeling into everybody. So the first thing that was... So let me just go ahead and do this. I'm going to write... something like this. First thing is the Myst theme. That's the very first thing that we're gonna write. Okay, that's gonna help us define how the rest of the series goes, based on the synth theme, which has synth pads, timpani, strings, a drone that goes on in the background with this B minor. Two different themes going on in it, which are just do do do. Oh, that's loud! Holy shit! And then what was it? Doesn't sound right. Yeah, because those were pizzicato strings. Yeah. Dun 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 dun. Yeah, that going on. And what I just realized too, that's interesting. Oh, that's really interesting. I want to listen to something real quick. You know what else I just realized about the Myst theme? Those two themes are Sirius and Akinar's theme. Exactly the same thing. Well, they're parts of it. This in the actual theme is Akinar's theme. It's Akinar's theme is, and then eventually it goes to just in a different key.
The fucking
shit.
fucking.
Thank you so much for the follow. I really appreciate it. Yeah, Akinar's theme is exactly the same as the beginning theme for the Myst, the whole Myst song, or the whole Myst theme. And then Sirius's theme is the pizzicato strings that's going on in the theme too. So listen to the Myst theme. So that is Akinar's theme. Same thing, it's just in a different key. Akinar's theme is... That's in... Okay, and then listen, keep listening. That right there is Sirius's thing. Same exact thing, it's just in minor, right? Sirius, where's Sirius's thing? His thing is slightly, it's a basically, here, let me play it, let me play it. Don't lose that. Right there, it's right there. That is so, I didn't even realize that. That is so freaking sick. Okay, boom, right? That's another important thing. What I'm going to write is, underneath these themes that I've written down, I'm going to write Sirius and Akinar, so that we remember that. That's so awesome. So that's the other thing that we have to keep in mind, is that the two themes that, or whatever we end up doing with our version of the Myst theme, we have to somehow recall our new Akinar and Sirius theme, because they're important. Okay? So, that changes the game quite a bit. Because whatever we write as our new Myst theme has to now involve a lot of other stuff. But that is so cool how much stuff is brought back. This is the great thing about video game music that I just love. Is they constantly bring back things that bring back themes and different variations of those themes in almost every single song. There's never a song that's just by itself that has nothing to do with anything. All the songs have something to do with one of the songs that has already been written. And as an example, I'd say 4 or 5 of the songs that are in this 20-song soundtrack, or I think it's for them it's 25. And this 25-song soundtrack, 5 of the songs are recalled in every single one. There's never one just by itself that makes no sense, that has nothing to do with anything. They're all recalled. And that's the important thing. And that's another reason why I wanted to rewrite the Myst soundtrack specifically, because of all of these recalls and callbacks to the other previous songs. Because when you're writing video game music, that's something extremely important that you have to keep in mind. And something that is going to keep people wanting to play and listen to your music. Some of the best music will recall stuff all the time. There's a lot of good Pokemon music that does that. Everyone loves Undertale. Undertale was a hit 2 years ago, right? That has so... I mean, there's 3 songs that revolves around. The main theme of Undertale, the Ruin music, when you're in the ruins, and then there's another one that... I think the battle music. And those 3 songs basically define the rest of the soundtrack of Undertale. They really do. They're recalled everywhere. And that's like the great thing about being able to write this kind of music, is you have to be able to do that. You have to be able to find some themes that are very notable and very catchy, things that are easy to recall, and you have to be able to recall them a lot in different variations. And that's what's going on here. So whatever we decide as our Myst theme needs to be constantly recalled and constantly brought back. But we have 20 songs now that we have to write. There's 10 on that page and 10 on that page. Okay, and again, what I've done to this point is just write down some simple things about each one of them. Give you some kind of like feeling of how you're supposed to, not how you're supposed to feel, but like the kind of feelings you get when you listen to these songs, and what their purpose is in the game. Okay, and what we're gonna do then is take those themes and rewrite them all. So what time is it? 12:20. Oh man, I don't have too much time. Because the first thing we have to write is the Myst music, is the Myst theme. It's the first thing we have to write. It's the most important thing too. So whatever we end up writing, that's going to define the whole thing. And with Myst music being so out of time and so, I mean, more atmospheric than anything else. I mean, it's not really songs. They're more just like atmospheric noises than anything. But that's a challenge. I take that as a huge challenge. So what we're gonna do, I think, right now is we're just gonna just listen to the Myst theme a couple times. We need to kind of define this a little bit better, because what I wrote previously about the Myst theme is that, other than like the technical side of things, which is the B minor, the things that are going on, the different instruments that are being played, other than that, I wrote that it's unclear. What does that even say? Uneasiness. It gives you a feeling of uneasiness. Remember the central plot of Myst. You're just some guy who stumbled upon a book, and you're falling through this space-like atmosphere, and you've now landed on this island. So think about that when you're listening to this, and tell me what you think. It's so weird because it's in a minor key, and it's not supposed to sound sad, but it sounds sad. It doesn't sound. It's an uneasy feeling. It's very uneasy. It doesn't sound quite right. Because it isn't. This is a brand new. This is a brand new adventure for everybody else. This is a brand new game that no one. I mean, no one's even come close to, at the time. No one came close to writing anything like this game. Like, this is so unique and strange, and I think that's what the music is trying to display. It's an uneasy game. It's something that's going to be different. It's a mysterious game. It's a little odd. It's the best way to define it, really. I'm wondering if they made a remake of the soundtrack for Real Myst, which is like the remake of it, essentially. Doesn't look like it. Oh, maybe they did. Because I'm kind of curious how that sounds. If they did. I don't know if they did or not, but let me see if this is different. No, it's exactly the same. There's no difference. Okay. That's fine. That's fine. I thought it was slightly different, but it's not. Maybe the drone is long. I don't know. I don't think so. I think it's exactly the same. Which is fine. They shouldn't have replaced the music. The music was awesome in this game. Even when they made all of those different editions, because there's the original Myst, and there's Myst Masterpiece Edition, and then Real Myst, and then Real Myst Masterpiece Edition, and they all came out like, Jesus, I don't even know when. There's so many freaking versions of this game, and they even have it for like they have it for like, yeah, like iOS, right? Don't they have it for iOS or something? Like, there's so many remakes of it. Yeah, they have it like for handheld. They ported it to the iPad. There's an Android release that came out a week ago. So you can play Myst on your phone. That's really funny, actually. Oh, it's made by Noodle Cake. Noodle Cake are the people that made Super Stickman Golf, which is like one of my favorite mobile games. I don't play very many mobile games, but that's funny. Hold on one sec. I need to shift away from me. Look at the screen. This is about something that I'm doing for. I'm helping out a high school with their musical, and that was just about that. Because I have to go. That's where I have to go in a little bit. So, anyways, yeah, like literally, I don't play very many mobile games. Like, I played Pokemon Go when it first came out, and then I played it recently because I was in New York City, and you have to play it in New York City. I just check it every once in a while, and then the only other mobile games I play are, what's the one game that I was playing? Oh, I was playing Flow for a while. I literally beat it though. Like, there's no other levels in Flow, and then Super Stickman Golf, and then I used to play this game called Frozen Bobble, but then I realized that it was just like a non-ending game, and it was kind of boring after a while, so I stopped. And now I play Super Stickman Golf. All the versions of it. Anyways, yeah, that's really interesting though that whoops. Yeah, no, it is exactly the same. They didn't change the music at all, which is awesome. They should really. I'm glad they didn't change the music because the music was perfect the way it was. But yeah, you can now play this game just anywhere. It's crazy. Cyan Incorporated. I thought it was called Cyan Games. It's called just Cyan Incorporated, also known as Cyan Worlds. That is so cool, though. Yeah, Abduction is a really cool game too. Yeah, so Myst came out in 1993, and then they came out with Real Myst, which was in 2000. And I don't really know what the difference was of Real Myst. Does it say? Myst Masterpiece Edition was released. It featured several improvements over the original game with better. Oh, so it just made it with better cover. And that was in 2000. Oh, they released 2 different versions of the remake in 2000? That's weird. So in 2000, they released Myst Masterpiece Edition, which was basically just like an updated graphics card for Myst, and then they made Real Myst, which was a 3D version of the game, where you can it was like a literal 3D world and stuff. It wasn't just slides. And then they made, I guess, Myst for the iPhone and iPod Touch in 2009, and then they made Real Myst Masterpiece Edition, which was in 2014. As recently as 2014, they made that. And then Real Myst for iOS in 2012. It's so weird. Yeah, but their latest game is Abduction, which is a sick game. The game is awesome, and you can also they released it for the Oculus Rift too, which is pretty sick. And it's like a spiritual successor to Myst. But that's a really cool idea. I'm jazzed up about that. Abduction was a beast. And oh wow, some guy gave it a 1 out of 5. Jesus Christ, that's bad. I guess there's like long loading times and poorly given. It ran poorly. Said the puzzles were out there. Really? I just watched somebody play through it, so maybe I don't know, but like, I was really intrigued. But I thought it was cool. Anyways, enough of that junk. But you kind of okay. I'm like trying to sidetrack a bit because I only have a half hour. Hold on one sec. What time do I have to go? I have to leave. Okay, so I have to leave out of my apartment at 3:15. Or I have to leave by like 2 something. Probably. Yeah, I probably have to leave at like 2:30. Earlier than that, probably 2:15. Dang. Yeah. Shit. But I gotta get on that. But anyways, yeah, so I haven't even eaten anything yet. Dang. Well, I don't know. I don't know what else I can talk about right now, to be honest with you. Like I said, I don't want to get started on this because I only have like a half hour to stream, and then I gotta go do other things. So I think what we'll probably do is just wrap things up from here. Just because, like I said, I just don't have enough time. But thank you guys for coming out. If you did, I really appreciate it. If you haven't already, please hit follow. Helps me out, keeps me wanting to stream for you guys and write this stuff on stream. I had said this before, and I'll say it again. You know, I took off this whole. I'm taking off this whole year just to write music and stream, essentially. The streaming thing is mostly for fun, but if it works out well, if you get a decent following, then I'll take it even more serious and see if it can go anywhere. But the actual writing music part is the thing that I'm mostly focusing on, and I'm just streaming it because I thought it was a unique idea to share the writing process of writing. I'm sure that people have heard music that they like and go, wow, I wonder how they wrote that, or I wonder where they came up with that idea. And that's kind of what I'm trying to display by doing this stuff. I have a YouTube channel. If you ever miss my streams, I upload them directly to YouTube, all of them. I have a Twitter in case I cancel a stream or I move it back a time or whatever. And what else do I have? I have a Discord also that I just created pretty recently, so there's not much going on there right now, but what I plan on doing is once all of the music I write is copyrighted, it will probably go up on, or like once I decide like what music I want to keep, it will all go up on the Discord channel in PDF so you can take a look at it. Because I know it's tough to see. I mean, I love my little setup here, but I know it's tough to see exactly what I've written. If you actually look at the notes, though, it's not too bad. Like, you can see what notes those are, for the most part, but, like, what I've written is kind of annoying and kind of tough to see. Especially chord symbols and chord changes. So, on my Discord, I will probably upload all of this stuff. I'll copy them and put them up as PDFs so you can look at them, play them for yourselves if you want to. I think that'd be a lot of fun to do. But yeah, I wish I could stream a little longer today. I just don't want to get right into the middle of Myst without having to leave all of a sudden. So tomorrow we're gonna write our new Myst theme, which is gonna be a fun stream because we're really just gonna be listening to the Myst stream or the main Myst theme and trying to come up with our own from there. So thank you guys for coming out. I really appreciate it. And again, if you haven't already, please hit follow. I'll be back tomorrow at 9 a.m. And I will leave you with you know what? I'll leave you with something from the Myst game. I don't know what. Maybe this. This will work. All right. See you guys later. Thanks so much.